FRQs. Instead of these, which have been, we've had 4 of the same format, we have now 4 different slightly different formats, and hopefully we can get enough people grading each of those that we can get a firm understanding of those. So, so hopefully, we can get some more people there at the grading next year, have a bigger Glendale group there for government, and get those different things covered. So things that we need to kind of look at, I think, that are the syllabus, putting together a syllabus. Now, one thing about that I'm not 100% clear on is, it sounds like we can just, as far as getting approved, just submit what they have. How long that will work, probably won't be very long. But as far as just getting into the system for now, we can probably try that and then work on our syllabi ourselves. But of course, we do need to kind of go over how we're going to work our book into the things that we need to know, which obviously the book is not designed for the current redesigns, designed for the previous one. The required readings. That's kind of one thing I've been concerned about. Any of you have tried to read like Federalist number 10, our kids, we probably all have a number of ELL kids in our classes. That's going to make that a little more difficult. So how we address those things, and we can kind of get an idea of what we need to know of those from the questions that they've given us. But at some point we need to kind of figure out how we're going to address that. Aligned question development. What we're going to do with different questions for coming up with, we're used to like 20 years of questions, and we need to kind of get that. And then the current questions, the current redesign, what they're going to be using for that. So first of all, they gave us a resource timeline, so that we can, and I kind of condensed that a little bit just so we can see what's coming out when. Right now we have our sample syllabus on the website. We have a syllabus development guide that I'll share with you. We have our practice exam, which is in the content book. They had originally said that coming in July would be sample student responses with commentary. We actually have those now. They went ahead and printed those off and gave those to us. So we can look at that and use that to kind of figure out exactly what they're looking for. National Constitution Center unit modules. I just looked at that last night. I saw that they had listed this, and they've developed 3 of them so far. They're pretty big, but kind of show you that in a little bit here as far as what they have developed for us. In July, and someone had asked at the forum, do you mean by July, do you mean like July, sometime in July, or do you mean like 1st of July? And they indicated 1st of July right away, this should be available, is a secure exam with rubrics. So right now we have our practice exam, and then there'll be a second exam, a secure exam that we'll be able to use. And again, that we probably need to have, I don't know, those of us who have already had our audits approved, I don't know if we'd have access to that at that point without the new syllabus. I don't know if you guys would or not, but that would be behind the audit. And then later in the summer, 12 lessons from required documents. Now later in the summer, I don't know if they include August, it's obviously we're back to school, but they're gonna have some lessons going over those required documents. So that will kind of cover to an extent what we'll be doing with that, depending on how those look. And then on a rolling basis through the fall, there's going to be, the first one is in late summer, they said, a module on each unit focusing on practices, including a video, a lesson plan, and student samples. So, so the 5 units that they put together for the redesign, they'll start kind of providing those for us. And again, one of those will be out fairly soon. And then starting in the fall on a rolling basis, they're going to do 5 podcasts on the 15 Supreme Court cases that are required. So, any question on this real quick before I move on? All good? Okay, the syllabus, surviving the syllabus. This is one of the presentations at the poster session that they did. The person who is responsible for ultimately approving the audit, the course audit, presented this, and we can use this as kind of an outline to make sure that everything's good to go. And I will share that with you when we get started on that. And then the new FRQs. So first of all, if you have that, the course syllabus, and I put a link to it up here that we can look at that and see what those are going to look like. The 4 different types: concept application, respond to a political scenario, explaining how it relates to a political principle, institution, process, policy, or behavior. Quantitative analysis, which is going to be similar to what Sherry had. Analyze quantitative data, identify a trend or pattern, draw a conclusion from the visual representation, and explain how the data relates to a political principle, institution, process, policy, or behavior. SCOTUS comparison. Now, on this, we have our 15 required cases, and what they're going to want us to do is compare a non-required case. So they'll present a case, they'll explain it a little bit, so the kids don't necessarily need to know that case. What they need to know is the cases that we already have, and then be able to say, oh, I can see where how that applies to this. And then the argument essay, develop an argument in the form of an essay using evidence for one or more required foundational documents. And with this, we can kind of see how those foundational documents are going to come into play. So, well, kind of go through this, and I'll pull up the practice test so we can see what those questions look like. The multiple choice. Again, we have the quantitative and qualitative. We have visual analysis, which is going to be like a cartoon or something like that. Now there are going to be maybe 2 or 3 questions attached to each of these stimuli. And that's about like the first half of the test, I think. The second half of the test is going to be straight multiple choice. Some of those are the comparison ones, where they kind of explain similarities and differences of political concepts. And if you see in the questions, they have a little grid where they have like 2 sets of concepts next to each other. That's what those are, I believe. Concept application, explaining application of political concepts in context, and then just straight knowledge. So it's not as text-based as the A-Push and World are. There is a good number of questions that are going to be just straight multiple choice. There are 4 options, not 5. And then that is going to be 55 questions in 70 minutes. So, the time is expanded, the number of questions for you two, in the past have been 60 questions in 45 minutes, but they're all just straight multiple choice questions. With this, there are those stimuli. So, so I'm gonna pull up the 55 questions.
What was the 4th type of essay?
Argumentative essay.
I'm sorry?
Argumentative essay.
So, Mike, should we hold off on questions until later?
Questions for this?
Well, I was just going to ask you about the multiple choice. So does that mean that all of those multiple choice questions that we've used in the past are not going to, we shouldn't use them anymore? Or did they say anything about that?
Okay, so I think on the previous questions, one thing that they had said is that with the, first of all, the FRQs, they're going to present us with a way to kind of mold those into the new questions. I think with the multiple choice, there'll probably be, we can probably go through those and use those to, well, first of all, just as like formative assessment,
Yeah.
they're going to be useful. Obviously, we're going to be not have as many questions right away for tests as we've had in the past. That'd be one thing we could kind of look at trying to put together. Cheryl had said that she was on the Facebook page, and there are some questions there they're developing.